5, 4, 3.
And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider, Sports Talk 1050, WTKA, online at WTKA.com. Sam Webb, Mr. Ira Weintraub on the other side, and you know what we do every Thursday. In the 9 o'clock hour, we catch up with our buddies, our pals, our friends, our brothers from another mother, the MGoBlog Roundtable crew. And at least 2 of them are with us so far this morning. We are joined by the day-to-day guy, the guy that kind of turns on the lights and turns them off at the end of the day at MGoBlog, and that is Seth Fisher. How you doing this morning?
The lights are not going off. We are deep in Hail of the Victors writing mode right now, and we're going to get this out, man. We are going to have a book for you. The one article that I just cannot get through is this article by Craig Ross, which gets into like the history of like Michigan starting their rivalry with Ohio State. And like they go to Ohio and they're like, okay, we're gonna play the biggest team in Ohio, and they play Wesleyan, and then they're like, no, that's not a big enough team, and we're trying to figure out how to like get this article to fit like a narrative of some sort, because he just kind of wrote information and threw it out there, and that's what we're wrangling through right now. So no sleep for Seth.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, in fact, at the time, of course, Ohio Wesleyan was a better program than Ohio State by a long shot, and so was Oberlin College, of course. But.
Yeah. Now tell me if this is familiar at all. The other thing going on that year in our Hail of the Victors book, which you can buy on at MGoBlog.com right now, is they're trying to figure out their whole NIL program. And they didn't call it that, right? But like they got Baird was kind of running the team for a while, and then he goes to Chicago and he's writing letters back, and you're like, okay, how are we going to pay for this guy? How are we going to make sure this works here? And they were trying to get this whole setup going, because at this point, Michigan is very aware that everyone's paying players. They are very aware that they're going to have to compete with Chicago, who's the best at paying players in the West. And they're like, okay, we're going to have to come up with some sort of system for doing this when Baird is not on campus doing it, but Baird is in Chicago talking to the alumni, talking to the wealthy people. And this is when we set up this whole system that like make sure our players get taken care of during the Yost era. And we have some very good teams coming up after this year that Craig's talking about. And I think this is kind of like the origin of Michigan's fantastic cheating system, which we dismantled in the 30s.
Yeah, I mean, everyone was cheating then, especially University of Chicago, who was the other big power in the Midwest. Because University of Chicago is interesting. It was John D. Rockefeller wanted his own college, and he wanted to be able to compete with Leland Stanford, who had his college out in California. And only Rockefeller figured out he couldn't really create an academic college, because there were already good academic colleges in the Midwest who were more established. So he decided, here's how I'll do it. I'll create a football program. This isn't a joke. So the University of Chicago was founded on football, and academics came later. They had football, and so they got the biggest snake in the United States to run their football program, Amos Alonzo Stagg, and he was incredible in terms of the sneaky stuff Stagg would pull. And Michigan to compete then had a guy who wasn't in Ann Arbor and wasn't really a part of the athletic department. He was just a lawyer in Chicago, sort of running things through the back door. It's a very, nothing ever changes, I guess, in some respects.
Yeah, unfortunately, we took this whole system apart, because otherwise, like everyone else in college football, we would have had a fantastic system when all of a sudden this comes back.
Yeah, well, because things evolved the way they did, and Michigan's, their moral compass kind of found a different direction, right? When it came to how to deal, it did put them at a competitive disadvantage to those whose moral compass never changed. And so, how do you bridge the gap at a time where rules and what is in accordance with the rules is really left open to interpretation, right? It's really your own personal measure. And so what Michigan did, they obviously moved a little more deliberately than a lot of folks would have liked, but it got them to a point where they're able to survey the area and then come up with what their answer is to what other schools are doing. It's this Empower program. It is, in the words of one insider in the program, one member of the program, they see it as a game changer. And so what is the premise of Empower? Premise of Empower is their in-house sort of NIL conduit, right? So they create they create certain opportunities, market them as well. So you're talking about internships, you're talking about mentorships, and any other a menu of NIL opportunities that they were able to take out, sort of kind of direct to donors and direct to businesses, and basically Jim Harbaugh himself making the ask of these donors and these businesses to show their support. Now, Michigan can't actually do the deals. They can't actually execute any of these deals, but they can create the environment for the deals to get done, whether they be directly with the student athletes, through their reps, or through collectives. And you have the engine for it, or the ask for it, coming from someone these donors and businesses will listen more to. Yes, they listen to the collectives, make no mistake, and collectives have been doing a good job of fundraising. But it's different when Jim Harbaugh asks, right? We can all agree on that. Like when Jim goes to him and be like, look, I need you to support this specifically. I need you to support, and I can vouch for it. This is where the money is going to go, because that's where a lot of donors and business. Well, how do we know where it's going to go, and who's going to get what? This is Jim Harbaugh putting his name on it, saying, I want you to support this, and I can promise you that your support is going to go where I say is where I'm pointing to right now. And I actually think this is a pretty novel concept that's going to be successful for them. Now, how successful is the question?
Yeah. I mean, the way that this all came out together and again, you have to understand that Michigan did not have a system in place, and most schools just took the system that was in place, right? Jim Tressel showed how to do it. They had a great system there. Marcus Freeman was able to take that system and install it at Notre Dame, and as soon as it was legal, they just put a different term on it, and boom, you're good. Same exact system they've been running for years. Saban has his system. It's been running for years. Kirby Smart used the Saban system, got everyone in Georgia under control. They already had this under control. Michigan had to start from scratch. So how does it happen? Fans, former players, people who are connected want to do something good. And each of them have a different vision. Someone's got a vision, okay, let's use NFTs, because it's the only thing that NFTs do well is give money to people for nothing, right? Mm-hmm. Let's use a charity, because charity is a great, and then people will be able to get money and, save it on their taxes. Let's try that model. And someone else is like, okay, let's fund the whole university. Let's make sure we get the whole athletic department and not just have this be about money going from us to football. Someone else is like, look, I was a former football player. My dad was a former football player, and we know how everything works and we know how it needs to work. Let's do it this way. Everyone's got their own vision, and they went and just did it because it was just waiting for someone to do it. Now we've got the ones that we're not sure which ones will survive or whatnot, but they've got the ones that got set up, and you need someone on top to say, yes, this works. And then just, like you said, provide the opportunity, have the blessing, have look, these guys know what they're doing. It's going to work out. We'll talk to you about what things are and how each system works, because they're each different visions. And then you can go and talk to them about it. It's as opposed to this, each collective is going and trying to sell their vision. And if you're like a person with, where do I fit in this? How do I trust you? What are you doing here? Right? Yeah. One person says, here's your options. This is what my wife does with her clients. She works for Easter Seals and helps people all over Oakland County. She says, here's the services, right? She doesn't provide all the services. She explains, here's what we can do for you. Here's how we can help your family. We can do this. We'll set you up with this. And then you go and sign up for the programs, and then the system helps you. But if you don't understand the system, you're walking in blind. And that's what we're doing right now.
I just have nothing yet, because I can't pretend to really understand how it works or what's going on. I mean, and you've seen this, I think, among fans in particular, and the media. doesn't seem to really understand what's going on either. Maybe
Well, I
someone in
get
the
it. And
media
look,
does.
you have you have a sort of scenario in place, or you had one where you couldn't guarantee every guy was going to get something. So that this Empower is going to help establish that, because the baseline for the program is that every guy receives a stipend every year. So can you get that funded? Number one, some level of support that is guaranteed to come in, where every guy knows that if he completes certain requirements, that he's going to be able to get a certain amount of money.
And is that what Michigan State has had? Like, it was some number that every single athlete at Michigan State got XYZ dollars. I don't think it was a lot of dollars.
It wasn't a lot. It wasn't a lot.
I think they got something.
Yeah, I definitely think true. And I think the goal, that's what was pulled back. I think the goal is more substantial than what Michigan State was getting, but the establishment of that, and then the creation of like I said, an in-house NIL marketing or imaging machine, where it doesn't require a collective or a representative to go out and kind of create the marketing opportunities or to create the NIL opportunity. They're actually creating them inside Michigan football. They're actually marketing them inside Michigan football. They're actually taking them directly so going out and basically generating this support within Michigan football. So even if you're a guy who doesn't have a representative, if you're a guy who's not working with the collective, you're still going to have a vehicle to advance your NIL opportunities. And then the other piece of this that is maybe the most significant is, who do you have making the ask? That is extremely significant, because it's not like what's being done right now. I mean, of course, the collective's been going around meeting with donors. Of course, they've been trying to fundraise. They've been doing it for a couple of years now. But varying levels of success. To Seth's point, you're going to have some donors say, well, where is this going to go? Who's going to get it? How is your vision different from this collective's vision? Yeah, who should I work with, this collective versus working with that collective? You got all of these questions that I think might, make a potential contributor feel like they're running in quicksand. Like, I don't know where to go. So they wind up not going anywhere. This kind of gets them off the spot. Having Jim Harbaugh, basically by virtue of his presence, offering a guarantee. Look, this is what's needed. This is who it helps. And I guarantee you that if you offer your support, it's going to go where I say it's going to go, because I am vouching for these collectives that are along with us. And if it doesn't work out, because it's one of the big things about collectives is, okay, and I'm just not just talking about at Michigan, but accountability. Like, how do you ensure that collectives are treating student athletes right? So this is also Jim saying, hey, I'm vouching for these guys. So if I hear something's going wrong, then I'm going to be right there to make sure a correction is put in place. So I actually think it's going to be a really effective plan for them, for football anyway, that gets them moving. And it's not a surprise to me that Chris Partridge has a huge role in it, because he's coming from a place where he sees how they get down in the SEC. He sees how money flows. And so how can you match that? You can't just sit back.
He was a high school coach in New Jersey. If you want to see how the sausage is made, go coach high school in New Jersey for a year.
Yeah. So
got a
Craig,
good education there.
I think in a nutshell, what they've done is bring a lot in-house, bring the creation of a menu of NIL opportunities for their student athletes in-house, the marketing for those NIL opportunities in-house, and the fundraising for that in-house. Now, the part that they can't execute is to actually do the deals, but everything else they can do. And, the other part is interchangeable. You could work with a collective to do the deals. They can tell the donors. You can work with the student athlete directly to do the deals. You can work with a student athlete rep to do the deals. But we're going to bring you the ones that are credible, the ones that will really help the kids. and we're going to make sure that, we're going to make sure that if you do show your support, that the money that you contribute goes to where they say it's going to go.
I don't think the fans' question is how does it work. I think they would actually rather not know. I think the question is, does it work? And the answer is going to be, we'll know soon, because we'll see how this does. We'll see how this, how they're going to go on the road. They're going to come back with a number. And that number is going to matter in decisions that people make as far as sticking around. If you look at our roster this year, it is stacked. They look like a team on the cusp of going to the national championship and winning it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The year after, we have a lot of decisions to make. And if there's enough out there to keep, now you're not going to keep JJ McCarthy if he's got a great season. You're not keeping Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum. You have to have some sort of reason, but there's a lot of eligibility out there. And if you can keep some of these guys, because another year is not going to hurt them down the road, that is really where you're going to see the difference.
Yeah,
and if they can tell the story, you'll be fine.
So I actually think the biggest question is going to be the longevity. How much funding into the future can they secure? I have little doubt that they will reach $10-12 million for the year.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to happen. They're going to be able to fund this program for this season.
For this season, I mean, are they going to raise $10-12 million a year for every year? Isn't this the problem that we, at least by rumor, felt that Texas A&M had? I mean, there was the rumor that Texas A&M had, $20 million plus, and then the next year they all transferred out.
Mm-hmm.
Look,
how do you execute it? Yeah. I mean, this gets, you're getting into how you construct, how you build a program. I think that had less to do, all the guys transferring had less to do with the, money drying up, and more to do with how you got the guys that you got, or why you got the guys that you got. If you're getting the guys just because of money, only because of money, they're
leaving because of money.
Right.
You can, right.
There's or any little thing that could disrupt them. If it's so transactional, the reason that they come, and it'd be very, very easy for them to leave if there's no sort of emotional, no sort of, kind of cultural appeal to where
Sam,
you are.
Are you saying that no one has a good reason other than money to go to Michigan State University? Because it's a great university, but a fantastic study abroad program.
Yeah, Craig, you raised. Now, this is going to be a test for them. Is how much farther into the future can you fund this thing? Because Ira brought up the point you just did, Craig. Like you really need more than $12 million for this to be successful. I think they could be successful getting some funding into the future, but do I think they're going to get a commitment for $12 million per year for the next 4 years off the rip? No, I think it's going to be some years in the making. This is just the first. This is the opening salvo, if you will. And Jim's going to have to be back out on the trail next summer and the summer after that to sort of prime the pump over some years, condition people to the point where they know, we do need $12 million a year. So, if once you get them used to contributing that much per year, you'll be fine. But I don't think one time out asking is going to do that.
No, maybe we just need to get an endowment. Maybe that's the plan. When Stephen Ross goes, he just leaves it all. I'm sorry, Stephen Ross's kids.
You're
but I'm
selling his.
We're gonna do something nice. You were planning on rescuing journalism in America or saving democracy across the world or something cool like that. But no, we're just going to create an endowment. And then that's where it will come from.
I mean, one thing seems for sure to me, and this is going a little bit sideways, is that this year, by my count, Michigan has 14 guys transferring out in the portal in the program in football. Some of these guys are really good players, or have big upsides, and they've got 9 guys coming in. Same deal. I mean, I think maybe they have more talent coming in than they had going out, but who knows? I mean, is this something fans are going to just feel comfortable with every year? They don't have a choice.
Don't have a choice. That's reality moving forward.
Mhm.
So when
Yeah.
you see 14 guys, the way you assess that is, okay, how many of those guys are first or second string guys? I would say none of them.
No, Eric All, is.
Yeah,
Yeah, but like you're gonna have those stories that come
Henning
along. Like,
is, I
I don't
think.
think that
I
was
don't
a.
think Henning was. I don't think Henning.
Well,
You know, I
Yeah,
think
Henning. We just talked about it. I think we talked about it off air. But like the receivers, they're just you got to have enough spots. You got to have enough job. Like, what's
Yeah.
AJ Henning gonna do? Just be the end around guy? He's gonna be Calvin
Right.
Bell? Like, Giles Jackson left for the same reason.
Yeah.
Like, how often do we use slots? We use second tight ends at Michigan.
yeah, and Eric All would have been a second string guy, so he might be the exception to the rule. But how many of those guys on that list compared to, say, other schools where they're losing, starters, losing starters
Mhm.
and multiple starters at that? That's how
Well,
you assess the health. Are you losing depth guys, third or fourth string guys, which the overwhelming majority of Michigan's guys were, or are you losing guys that are at the top of your rotation?
So,
And that's not Michigan.
yeah,
so
no,
what Michigan's got to do is Michigan's not going to compete with Ohio State and Georgia and Alabama for we're going to be the top recruiting class every year. They're just not, because they're not going to be into the pay for play move. And some of those guys are like, look, I'm the best in the country at what I do. I've been the best at what I do for a long time because I put a lot of time and money into it, and I'm going to get paid. And Michigan's just not playing that game with those guys, even when they have their NIL thing set up. What they need to do is find another thing that they can do better than everybody else. That's what we're hoping for from this. We're hoping that the amount of money you get by being a Michigan football player says to you, if I'm Jamon Green, I would rather come back and play one more year and put more money in the bank than test the waters and try and be an undrafted free agent in the NFL. So if you are a 6th round or 7th rounder in the NFL, we need to be able to say it's better to come back, right? If you're on the fence about the NFL, we need to be able to say you should come back, because Ohio State's not going to get that guy to come back. Georgia's not going to get that guy to come back. If we have 4th and 5th year guys on our roster every year that they don't, that's where we can have value that they don't have. And why can Michigan have that? Because we're going to graduate you. We're going to get you graduate degrees, and you're going to have opportunities that you wouldn't have otherwise when you're done playing football. Michigan could be the best team in the country every single year, or at least compete with the best teams in the country every single year, just like Bama, just like Georgia, but they have to do it a little differently. They have to be better at this than everybody else. That's the market we're trying to hit, not just let's get to where everyone else is. We have to be better at it so that we can take advantage of a place in the market that no one else can really reach.
Well, and it looks like they're on their way.
A couple of things real quick. So Eric All was not going to be a starter this year. I see this in the chat. Eric All was not going to be a starter this year. So he would have been a second string guy. That's the point.
Second string tight end's a starter at Michigan. I disagree with that. Second string tight end is a first.
Yeah, the way Michigan uses their tight ends.
Harbaugh, come on.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, he wasn't gonna be in the role that he expected to be in.
Well, that
so
could
let's
be true.
put it that way. Our Nikhil Green was not a second string guy. He was not. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why he left. That someone else said that. RJ Moten, it would have been interesting. So he definitely had fallen down the depth chart at safety. The talk was coming out of spring, and you can hear a lot of the guys talk about this. I mean, the next safety off the bench was starting to look like Quentin Anderson. That's what the guys were saying.
Quentin Johnson.
Quentin Johnson.
Quinten.
And, would he have been higher in the rotation if he was open to playing more linebacker? That started to be the conversation. So what you guys in the chat are putting as cut and dry was not as cut and dry as you're making it. This is part of the reason why those guys transferred. It's it's not as rosy.
Want to play, man. Yeah,
right.
Guys want to play. I'm just talking about when Michigan was flailing around in the portal, and they finally got the guy from UMass, Josh Wallace. But they probably would have much preferred to have Jamon Green.
Mhm.
And that's the kind of guy who it should just be a no-brainer for that kind of guy. If you're not going to get drafted, if you're not absolutely sure of being drafted in the first 4 or 5 rounds, you should be really considering coming back to Michigan because you're going to make more money. That's what I want people to be thinking. The depth chart down the line, the only position where I think you really need to be able to convince a guy to stick around even if he's not starting is quarterback. Michigan needs to find a way to always have a second quarterback they can trust. We're going to the year with Tuttle right now. Like, you need to have more than that because your quarterback could go down and that could ruin your season. And we've seen that happen at Penn State. We've seen that happen at other schools too. You need to be able to have another guy coming up, and they can't just 5-star it every year, or maybe they can. Who knows? Like,
I mean, I'm not. So, I mean, on that small point, I'm not so negative. I mean, what we saw from Orgy in the spring looked pretty damn good. I still think the Davis Warren is plausible. Tuttle looked okay. He's been a starter. I'm not. To me, the quarterback
the drop
position
from
looks
JJ to those guys
is big, but that's going to be
big.
true most
and
every
if we
place.
and I don't have anything against Tuttle, right? But like I've seen Tuttle play a lot.
Yeah,
I know what Tuttle can do.
We've all seen.
And if Michigan had the ability to go out and get somebody's very good starter who just wants to get a year in there, right? And be the backup and maybe be the starter and maybe be the star, but like just have that, give yourself a high floor every year. That would be much better. And that's going to take some funding. That's going to be like, you're going to have to convince guys to leave pretty good opportunities, leave opportunities to start in other places. And big schools do that. Alabama's got a second guy who they can turn to if their quarterback goes down. Maybe not a superstar. You're not going to have one of those guys. It's really hard. But that's one of those things that it's going to be really hard to get in football. And if you're going to compete every year, you're going to need a second quarterback on your roster somehow.
Gotcha. All right, we need to get to a break. We have much more to get into. I'm curious what you guys think. I'd throw this question to you in the break to kind of chew on because I brought it up with the whole live topic last week. Mike Tirico brought it up. You think the what is the PIF, that fund? Do you think they're ever going to get behind NIL? That would be something. That would be a potential game changer for some program.
What you're saying, Ohio State football brought to you by Saudi Arabia? Something like that?
I think you got some institutions out there that would be open to that.
Yeah.
Be open to that. But anyway, we got to get to a break. Be back on the other side here on the Michigan Insider Sports Talk 1050 WTK, The Ticket.
I think there would be too, actually, Sam. I mean, but I
clear on the radio.
Yeah.
So actually, Colston Loveland is better than Eric All at this point. I have no idea who you talk. What you're watching?
He's reading. But for those listening in right now, he's reading someone who says Eric.
Well, we're only on video right now. I don't know who this guy. I don't know what football he watches. If he thinks Eric All is better than Colston Loveland,
Eric All is
got to be a family member. You got to be a family.
Eric All is a good football player. I'm not going to start ragging on Eric All here. And he's going to look good at Iowa because Iowa throws to the tight ends. If you're a tight end, there are worse places to go than Iowa.
Yeah,
he's going to look pretty good this year. I don't want us to have egg on our faces for being like ha ha.
No. So it's
Eric All is a real football player who will play in the NFL. I have no question about that.
Look, man, that separation was better for both sides because it got to the point where it wasn't. There was discontent there, and it wasn't just about playing time. And so when you get into a situation like that, it's better to move on. He could have, if he had stayed here, he would have played. He wouldn't have played over Colston Loveland. He would not have played over Colston Loveland. He is not a better player than Colston. He's a good player, not a better player than Colston Loveland.
I think that's the point. That there are sometimes, and I have a whole database of guys and the reasons they left. Again, I track it because sometimes you can see if a coach is doing something wrong, and the health of the program you can tell by the reasons guys leave. The reasons guys leave this program are healthy. You always get this. Someone has a quack doctor that they believe in, and Michigan doesn't want to support them in it. Mm-hmm. Like that kind of thing happens all the time, and it just people are people, right? There are reasons that someone left your company that it's not reflective of your company or necessarily even that person. It just wasn't the right fit at that time. That happens.
100%.
So
That is that all the way. And so my biggest thing with Eric is, it's all about health. How healthy is he? Is he all the way back? If he's all the way back, he's going to have a really good season at Iowa, and he'll probably get a shot in the NFL.
His quarterback is Cade McNamara, and he's at Iowa. He's not going to have any problem getting targets. Like if you're a tight end at Iowa, and then check down Cade as your quarterback, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, if he's healthy. If he's healthy is the question.
Yeah,
so
I hope he's healthy. I
do too.
I don't know how things left with the program, but like I loved watching him. I put him on the back cover of our magazine last year. Like he was a very good blocker at a block that is hard to make and hard on the body to make. Because he was making those, he was doing that crossbar, and Schoonmaker did a fantastic job last year too. All has done it a little bit, but like he's not what he's mostly out there to do. Right. All is going to give you like Jake Butt down the field, Loveland is going to give you Jake Butt down the field. You weren't getting that from Eric All.
Yeah, no doubt. This is
he
makes the progression as a blocker that I expect him to make. He's here 2 more years and he's out. After
Loveland,
he's
a
true freshman from Idaho last year, and he played on a team that had a chance to win a championship. Like that is a good. When a guy debuts like that, that's good sign, right? Like when Rod Moore shows up and starts playing against Ohio State that way in his freshman year, you're like, this guy's going to be pretty good.
Alabama went to Idaho to recruit Colston Loveland. That's what we're talking about. So. No, man.
Careful, because the more we talk about this, the more you're going to mention that Jay Harbaugh knows what he's doing, and then someone's going to find out.
Well, hey, I think he's going to be one of the 4 coaches. That if Jim's right, that 4 coaches are going to be head coaches next year. Jay's one of them.
Harbaugh said he has 4 coaches right now will be head coaches next year.
Yep.
Stop saying that, Jim, because it makes it sound like you're going to the NFL and going to anoint one of them our head coach.
Well. Certainly, you can see Sharon Moore. Maybe Minner.
Sharon
coming back on here, guys. Stand by in about 10 seconds.
Yeah. Maybe
John Bellamy's going to be a head coach somewhere.
Maybe
one day. I don't know if he's pegging him, saying it now, but Bellamy is something.
Yeah.
And back on radio, taking it to the top in 5, 4, 3.
And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider Sports Talk 1050 WTKA, online at WTKA.com. Sam Webb, Mr. Ira Weintraub on the other side, and joining us for part 2, our good friends from the MGoBlog Roundtable. We had a spirited debate in the break about some of the guys who decided to go by the wayside. And Craig, you asked a question of fans. And I wonder if it applies to you. And I think it's a relevant question to dig into.
I'm a fan.
You are a fan. Is this something that's souring you on the sport that you see, whether it's NIL and the obvious sort of sea change in the perception of how you compensate players, and or the transfer portal and the fact that you're gonna have to get used to what you say, 14 guys.
14 guys out by my count.
That's going to happen get used to that every year.
Every year.
Every year there'll be double-digit guys transferring out.
Yeah.
Is that a problem for you as a fan?
I don't know. At first, I think I would have said I don't like it. But now I'm more sanguine about it, that I think for the kids that are leaving, it's good for them, or they perceive it's good for them. And probably in most of the cases, it is objectively good for them. I mean, for example, I think Alan Bowman has a legit shot of being a starter at Oklahoma State this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so why shouldn't he be doing that as opposed to sitting behind other guys here at Michigan? And he's got his degrees. It makes sense, and same for most of the guys on, or all of them perhaps on the list. And I'm excited about the guys that are coming in. So I don't know. I mean, at first, if you would have asked me this 2 years ago, I said I don't like it. Now I'm getting used to it and thinking, all right, it's just a part of the landscape of the game and the sport, and we have, we'll get used to it. So I think the answer is, nah, I'm okay with it at this moment. We'll see. Maybe in a year from now, I'll say this is too crazy to deal with.
So
But-
another question, and we got this one yesterday. All right, so got football with Empower. This is a program for football by
Yeah,
football.
yeah.
So the immediate question was, okay, you wonder about the other sports, but especially basketball.
Basketball.
Is there enough room in the sandbox on the fundraising trail for everyone, or do they for everyone to do this, or are they all as a an athletic department collective? So all the programs going to have to come under one umbrella and kind of make the fundraising push as one. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, my first thought about this is, shouldn't it be easier in basketball? Because in some sense, basketball, one guy. I mean, if you get one guy and he's the right guy, you have a basketball team. Look at what happened in the NBA this year. I mean, they've got this guy. I mean, Denver has this guy, Jokic, and yeah, they have some other good players, but put Jokic on any NBA team and they're probably right there. I mean, that dude may be, I don't want to go out too far, but he's about as good an offensive player as I've ever seen. Defensively, okay, maybe not, but there's holes there. But offensively, who have you seen who's better than this guy? Who's more interesting to watch? And so you would think in basketball it would be a lot easier because you only got 13 scholarships. Yeah, you got 13.
Doug
Hey.
Gaynor wrote, "Heck, I don't think Craig liked the forward pass when it debuted in college football."
Yeah, well, that's true. 1906, I was opposed to it, and so you would think, but it doesn't seem that way. It seems like this is more of a struggle, and for Michigan, or at least it has been so far. So I mean, you would know more about this than me, Sam, and Seth perhaps too. But my instinct is, should be easier in basketball. Doesn't seem to be.
I think here's what I know. I think they're gonna have to try this. They're gonna have to go this route where what Jim's doing right now, kind of going city to city, donor to donor, saying, "Hey, I need you to do this." I think Juwan's gonna have to do that. I think he's gonna have to do that in some similar. Maybe it'll take on a different form and have some of the same basic tenets. I don't know. There's no one is saying that they have to have their, take Empower in basketball.
Right.
They can come up with their own program, but the premise of it, or part of the premise of it, will have to be, the head man going out and basically making the asks himself. In the way, because I'm sure he's, kind of asked for support, just like Jim was asking for support. But this is not like this. Not like I'm going to Chicago, I'm going to LA, I'm going to DC, I'm going to New York. We're bringing together. And did you see the room in Chicago? It was like 12 dudes. I maybe exaggerating, but there wasn't that many people in that room, Craig. And I certainly inferred from that. Oh, these must be like the big time money people,
right?
That you got to remember. If it's only like you can count them. Yeah, this is a very targeted audience. This wasn't just you reach out to the Alumni Association of Chicago and say, "Hey, Jim Harbaugh is going to be there." That's not this. This is all right. You, and you.
Yeah.
You got 100 million, and you got 100 million. Hey, we need you guys to show up and support the program in this way. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think they're going to be successful, because Jim's going to write to them, making the ask. And I think, maybe it works for basketball. Maybe it doesn't, but I think you're going to have to try.
Someone's going to be the basketball sugar daddy.
Mm-hmm.
Someone wants to be, because that spot's open now. That seat next to the coach used to be filled. Now we don't have that seat right now. So that's open. So someone out there who's got a big pocketbook and doesn't want to be like fifth or sixth fiddle for the football team, you can be the savior of the basketball program, and you'll be sitting there next, and Juwan will sit there and high five you 8 times a game. We promise 8 high fives from Juwan per game. But that's one of the things that's probably going to happen, and I don't know if all these people even get along, but you're going to have to put Jim and Juwan and Bonnie and everybody on the plane together, and they're going to go and say, "Here's what we're doing for FON this year," or whatever they want to call it, right? Like, we're going to have some sort of thing like that where we're going to raise for Michigan athletics, because I don't want us to just leave out the women's programs. I don't want us to leave out baseball. I don't want us to not compete in some of these things. I know, because I look at the numbers for MGoBlog and I sell the ads on MGoBlog, how much money football makes and how much money basketball makes. And the only difference is when football is not watchable, that's when basketball gets a lot of interest. 2014, we got a lot of basketball interest all of a sudden because they were good and they were fun, and we loved the coach and we loved the team and they were fun to watch, and something else is going on with football that made us just turn off. So somebody is going to be that. Somebody's going to be the basketball guy. It's got to be figured out, right? It's going to be someone's going to want to do it.
Yeah. But in the until they get the sort of collective strategy together, which they're working on, right? They got, big brains kind of coming in and helping develop the NIL strategy for the department. What we're talking about is, what do the programs do individually? And, I think this initial foray out there, and he's asking for football support. Now, maybe once they have some success, reaching their goals, maybe then you ask for, I'm talking about, maybe then he'll ask for, hey, support, put some money over in this program, put some money over in that program. I don't think that I don't think Empower, that's what they're doing right now, though.
Yeah, no, Jim is not, and like I said, this is probably something that they just got to do right now, right? Football is. I'm glad that Jim's not waiting. You can't wait around for everyone to have the ducks in a row and be like, okay, check the boxes, and okay, now you can go and do this, and this is our plan. We don't have time to wait for a plan. You got to get on the road this week, do it this week, because you're going to have to coach football in a couple of weeks. And when Jim coaches football, he coaches a lot of football. So there's not going to be a lot of time, and whatever you need to do has to be done now. That's fine. Juwan is going to have to be responsible for his program. He's going to have to get people excited about his program. I think that getting Kamwa in here is getting people to believe some things. If he can get another guy in the portal and they can compete in the Big Ten this year, he's coming off a tough year, and then he lost his best player to the portal because someone else pays him more money. That's a story that he could tell people if they're having success and be like, hey, man, if we just funded this program, you could be the guy sitting next to me, and Hunter Dickinson would come off the bench and give you a high five. That's not happening here right now. We need somebody to do that. But Juwan's responsible for Juwan's program, and Jim is responsible for Jim's program, and Jim is doing what he needs to do right now for his program. And I think
that's what you just said was maybe the most salient point in the whole roundtable today, and that was, Jim say, "Okay, I gotta go."
Yeah,
I got it. And that's just, you got to understand, that's just him, period. Not just with NIL. Like, don't talk. Don't talk about it. Be about it right now. Let's go do it, and then we'll figure out how after we start, right? Well, this was a little bit different. This was a little
Schedule
bit
the satellite camps, announce them, and then we'll plan it.
Yeah, this was a little bit different because, the genesis of this was really, at least as far as I can tell, so they hire Partridge. Right, Partridge is coming from Ole Miss, and seeing how they get down NIL wise, and you get here and you're like, what? What? And we're gonna compete.
But their program is 100 years old. They've been at this forever.
Right. It couldn't have come as much of a shock having been here before.
Right.
But all right, we got to figure out something. We got to figure out something quick. So this is very much, this entire sort of initiative it has Partridge's fingerprints all over it. And Rodney being an entrepreneur, so you bring in the guy with that kind of brain, with that kind of mind, you put them together, and then you kind of give Jim a direction to go in, because he's ready to go. Tell me where to go, and we'll start getting it done. So that is really how all this came together. And I think between the knowledge of how they do it elsewhere, obviously kind of working in concept, they didn't go rogue. They kind of got all the approvals and things they need to do to make sure they were on the up and up with what they could do and couldn't do. And to be able to have your head man out there highlighting opportunities that you create. So it insulates you from the viability of any collective. It creates a baseline for your entire roster. This, I think, I do agree that this is the turning point for football. What I don't know is it scalable? Can every program do it as much, or will they require more of the assistance from the athletic department initiative?
They're going to have to do it themselves, right? Bonnie's going to have to figure out the program for softball. All right, Brandon's going to have to figure out the program for hockey. And it's going to have to function the way that those sports function, the way that those fans function. Basketball, there's a wide open opportunity for someone to be the basketball person.
It is.
And that's what's probably going to happen because it's just too easy, right? And that person wants to do women's and men's basketball, even better. Go. Let's
Who do we point to? But see, we rattle off, a bunch of the same names every time football comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Who do we think of off the top of our head when we think basketball?
The thing is not Michigan's big donors. I don't know the names, but I know that some of them are out there and don't necessarily want their name on everything. And that's someone told me once, and this is stuck, that like Michigan is very lucky versus Ole Miss that their big donors are not the kinds who come in and say, okay, well, I want X, Y, Z, A, B, and C, right? They're the ones who say, I want to support the program.
Wow.
Now, if you're dipping further into pockets, into pockets, you're going to need to start selling some A, B's, and C's. Bro.
I don't know about that one, man.
I don't either. I'm not saying you're wrong, Seth. I just don't know. I mean, but they're
probably just talking about Stephen Ross specifically when they say that.
Yeah.
On a more specific thing, what about the situation with Reeves from Kentucky? I mean, that's some crazy ass stories happening there that for people who don't know, this is a kid who was at 3 years at Illinois State, a good player, transfers to Kentucky. He has a pretty good year at Kentucky, and now he wants to be gone for whatever reason. I don't know what that reason is exactly, but he has 1 year of eligibility left. Michigan is in the talk on this one.
So here's my question, and I haven't checked on this to know the answer.
Yeah.
Has he graduated?
No, he's gone to Illinois, back to take classes at Illinois State to graduate from Illinois State. Kentucky is saying, well, they're going to do something to make sure he's not allowed to transfer.
So
now,
and
I don't. If he doesn't graduate, it's a non-starter for Michigan. If he doesn't graduate,
no other school has this problem.
Right.
No other school has, because you go to any other school, you go to Illinois, you go to the Dean of LSA at Illinois and say, can I get my guy to come here and finish up his classes and get an Illinois degree, and then we'll have him be a grad student here? And they'll say, fine. Everyone else's deans are cool with this. Michigan has a problem with the way that we deal with transfers, and that is you tell the story, and it's like, there you go. Somebody at Kentucky wants to hold this up. Why? Because some people are jerks. Some people don't want to lose a player.
Hey, man, that happened with Terrence Shannon.
Terrence Shannon. Yep, and it happened with Caleb Love, right? UNC wasn't going to let him graduate. And some schools that he could go to are going to say, doesn't matter. If UNC wants to be a jerk, or Kentucky wants to be a jerk, or Texas Tech wants to be a jerk, doesn't matter to us. We'll get it done for you because you are valuable to our school. We understand the value you're going to provide to us, and we're going to make this happen. Michigan does not do it. And it just comes up against people who have the decision-making power, who are not who you cannot tell them what to do. Their job is to run their thing, and they run it the way that they want to. And Michigan is an academic school first, and this comes back to like the donations, right? You want to look at who the big donors for Michigan. They're not athletic donors. They are donors to the school. And we bring in so much more money for the academic side than we do for the football program. No, very, very other few schools are like that. Alabama's not like that. Mm-hmm. So it's a different scenario here, and it's not easy to navigate that. So when you say, like, did he graduate yet? Well, if it wouldn't matter. But if UK is holding up his graduation and being a jerk about it, all that tells me is this guy really wants to come to Michigan, and we just got to figure out a way to do
Well,
it.
no, it doesn't exactly say that, because remember, the rules have changed, and that your second transfer now is not free.
True.
You have to sit out, and
Right.
so
Unless you're a grad transfer, you don't have to sit out if you're a grad transfer.
that's the point, of course. And so the fact that he's going to Illinois State to get a degree doesn't mean that it's to come to Michigan. It means, it may be that it means he isn't going to sit out. He doesn't want to sit out a year.
Correct.
Because he has to get the degree not to sit out. And I think Kentucky has no ability to stop this whatsoever, even though they're making noise. How can Kentucky control whether Illinois State gives a kid a degree or not? Come on. They've got no ability to do that. The NCAA rule, I think, is fairly clear that you get your degree, you can then transfer a second time without sitting out.
I think that their point is that you're going to be, if he goes back to Illinois State, that's a second transfer, and now you have to sit out next year no matter where you go.
That's not what the NCAA rule says. The rule
right,
says,
but it's the only way they could legalese that. But like the easiest thing would be for Kentucky to be like, okay, where you at with your credits? He's got to be close. If he's going to Illinois State to complete a few classes, he had to have been pretty close when he got to Kentucky in the first place. So it's just this wrangling where someone with some sense could just step in and be like, where are you at? Are you getting a degree or not? Are you getting an education or not? And make that happen. Now, I agree, second transfers should be blocked, right? And grad transfers should be free because that's the incentive.
Yeah, we got to get out of here, folks. On our way out, I got to let you know, great deals to be had over at Brighton Ford. Get on board with Brighton Ford by going to BrightonFord.com. Call 1-800-NEW-FORD and make it out to the lot at 8240 West Grand River Avenue in Brighton, Michigan. You can get into a 2023 F-150 for $315 a month with $3,500 down, a 2023 Escape Active All-Wheel Drive for $337 a month with $3,500 down, or a 2023 Ford Edge SEL All-Wheel Drive, $313 a month with $3,500 down. That's at Brighton Ford. Get on board with Brighton Ford. We'll see you tomorrow here on the Michigan Insider on Sports Talk 1050 WTK, The Ticket, the official